is, sorry, Tony, I just want to make sure that, yeah, you work for Arup, don't you? Is that right? Sorry, I can't see
Yeah.
you. Yeah, so we've been out. Arup did send. So before I went on leave, I think it was Thursday. Bear me one sec. It was Thursday the 21st. We consulted with consultants, Arup, ACOM, WSP, Atkins, Jacobs, on the Specifier tool. So we ran through basically what I'm pretty much going to show you today, a bit more polished, obviously, because it was a full day and it wasn't just me umming and ahhing all the way through it. But we got feedback from them. We've captured that feedback from those representatives. Barbara was there. So we've captured all of that and we're now working. We haven't got a plan yet because I went on leave on the Friday, but we will have a plan. We've got a meeting on Thursday of this week to put an action plan in place to deal with the comments that were given and also to develop the tool based on the feedback that we've been given. So there might be some stuff here which people have given us feedback on that we haven't acted on. It's simply because I was on leave for 3 weeks and we haven't done anything, but there is a plan in line to do it. So apologies for that. So the first thing is when you come into the specifier tool, just I can see the team screen. So if you've got a question, just stop me or stick your hand up and I'll come straight to you. So what we've got here is this will be sort of the opening page of the specifier tool. So very similar to cars. You'll come in. It's not cars. We've leveraged the technology that we have in cars, but it's not cars. Is the main thing to say. You'll come into this page and you'll have a list of specifications that you are part of the team. You know, you could be the approver, you could be the lead author, you could just be someone that's drafting the specification, but you will be able to see all of your projects there. The National Highways Projects Reference Pin will be just that, but because that doesn't really mean anything to the supply chain, you will be able to add your supplier's project reference from maybe your own QA system or what's been agreed, such that it actually means something to you. That's probably the next thing to say. This isn't a QA system or QC system. It's simply to provide the specification. So author the specification. So if you usually put your specification within ProjectWise, we are looking at providing an extract of here. So for example, the fact that you've authored the specification within here means that it's probably compliant to our regulation, or the SHW and then the work specific requirements. If it's been checked, we'll have all of that data. So what we're looking at adding is maybe sort of an ellipsis in here where you can click and then export audit trail. Then you would be able to put the specification and the audit trail into ProjectWise to satisfy your quality control systems within there, such that the approval within ProjectWise would simply just be clicking the buttons, because the approvers in ProjectWise can see that it's been through the approval process on here. So we've identified there's a bit of duplication there. We don't think we'll be able to get an AIP from here into ProjectWise, because we'd have to do the same with I can't remember the other one. But ProjectWise is a Bentley application. There's other third parties that could come in the future, but it's too much for now, basically. So that did come out of the workshop we did on Thursday. Right, sorry, just need to see what's live. Just to say as well, this isn't the tool, so there's no coding. This isn't a software program. This is simply screenshots that we've put together and linked in Figma, such that it looks like something's there, just so we can give you a visualization of what's actually happening, or the proposal for what will happen. Sorry, I should say. So similar to cars, again, you'll get the specification information front sheet. This stuff will probably be dragged from the front screen, and also then we'll link to an AIP where we have this information within National Highways database, such that it just populates it for you. And this is obviously input by yourself, such that it means something to you and the people working on the project. The SHW publication, there's a bit of discussion around contract date here. We think that's probably now the wrong wording, but this is the sort of line in the sand on which version of the specification we'll be using to compile this specification. We can update that, and I'll try to come to that later on as long as I get the right screens. But it does set that line in the sand for this is what we're using. There is a tool that we can use to update quickly and audit those changes. But then this date also draws in what I'll come on to show you in a minute with regards to the work specific requirements, what's also included in each of these topic levels, but we'll come on to that in a minute. Administration, at the moment we've got this set as England. We are discussing with the devolved administrations whether they would like to use this. Bit of a challenge around hosting, where that's hosted in terms of whether it's hosted on our Microsoft Azure platform, but we're discussing that with the devolved administrations at the moment. So we've left a space in there, sort of a placeholder, such that if you would like to use Scotland, it would pull in all the data reference to Scotland, and then the same for all the other devolved administrations, but only showing England at the moment because we're the only definite, but we have offered it to them. Discussions ongoing. And then this stuff here, don't worry too much about this stuff. Obviously, that is just for internal use. So for us, such that we can, again, doesn't replace your QA process, but just allows us to roll back if necessary to version 1.1. Without doing that, it's basically uncontrolled development. But we just use this. It's just like a ticker for us, basically a counter, such that we can count what's going on, and that's for the sort of database sort of server side stuff, such that we can retrieve versions if you need us to. And then very similar to cars, we've got the specification, additional authors, reviewers, approvers, and these will have different levels of authority. One thing that we did review, which seems we did find out from the consultation, which seems really simple, but I think because it just shows why we need to do this. We were all thinking that reviewers need to review different parts of this. So obviously, if you put a review in there for drainage, they're not going to be reviewing the 600 series stuff. So we think now actually we need to split this down such that reviewers can have a topic added to them, such as drainage or earthworks. You know, we were thinking it, but we'd never said it, and it doesn't come across in the tool because we haven't done it. But that was picked up at the consultation, and then you have an approver who can approve the specification and say, yep, that's the final one. Off it goes. We can lock it such that if a design review is being undertaken, we can lock the specification such that the approver can read it without people making changes, have a design freeze. And also we've added in the functionality that, for example, it's time, the approver thinks right now's the time for everyone to review the specification. They can just click that, it will generate an email, can be sent to all of the reviewers such that they know this specification is ready to go. This caused quite a bit of discussion as well, these design elements. So you'll see that within here. We just added these to add a quick way where we've got specification items which may be the same throughout each of these subject levels. So for example, the subject is drainage, this would be earthworks, you could have structural steel, concrete, whatever. We thought this would be a quick way of adding in headings within here. Not sure if the functionality is necessary. It caused quite a bit of confusion, which probably means that it shouldn't be in there. Under review to see if we could call it something different, see if we still need it, etc., etc., etc. So we're just looking at that as well. Specification health check. So this is simply similar to cars as well. There will be a load of validation errors. There will be a load of validation rules and warnings around the specification as you're filling it in, such that if there's a drop down menu and you haven't actually selected anything, it will populate here so that the approver can run the health check and see where things are missing or information hasn't been provided. And then also as well, a way to link departures to the specification. So if there's a departure which you need to apply for as part of this specification, you can do that within the specifier tool. And I'll show you that in a minute. But also similarly, if you've applied if you're doing the design and you've applied for a departure and you know that you will need a departure from the in the specification, if you've done that up front such that you want to de-risk it and get that approved before compiling the specification, or the specification takes a long time to compile and you're applying for departures as you're doing it, you can attach these to those documents as well. So let's go in and just have a look at this. So what we're looking at in terms of authoring is you've got your top level sort of subject, we're calling this, and then below that you've got your topics. So we also look at topic level departures. So where we've got departures that apply to all of drainage, they would be included in here. Where you've got departures that potentially just relate to a specific element within the design, such as the East Carriageway drainage schedule, they would be included in there, such that this does not apply to the whole of the subject. It only simply applies to this topic here. And then through there, we go through and create the specification based on the work specific inputs. So it might be if I just skip on 1 or 2. Yeah, here you go. So as you can see here, this is the specification for highways works on the left hand side. This is to demonstrate something else, so just forget about that for the moment. Where we've got 22.5, it becomes WSR 500 22, so you can see the logic there in them linking. The back reference, so at the moment this is sort of greater than, less than WSR reference included in there is populated with what this actually is, such that the contractor knows that when they read clause 22.5, they've got to go look at this document, which is sat here. And then, as you can see, the SIs that have been authored in CARS then pull through into these requirements here. So the compiler, the specifier will actually be completing these boxes. Because they're screenshots, I can't actually do that. But what we have done is built in the functionality such that this should say 10, 20 or 30 in there, and they'll be selecting them. And when they select them, it's then populated such that there's sort of logic between what we're authoring, what the specifier is authoring. The specifier can see that this comes from CC 500. We haven't done this well because that should say drainage. Sorry, bear with me a second. I'm just going to take a screenshot of that to get that changed. Sorry, 2 seconds. Okay. So yeah, as you can see, CC 500 relates to CC 500 there, such that it's totally mappable. And then 22.5 and 22.5 relate to there. We couldn't put the A and B in because if we did that, it's actually relating to these clauses when we don't want to actually bring these clauses into the contract. Remember, this side of it will be a contract document, as will everything on this side, bar the A and the B. So we don't want to bring those in, so we simply just say it's 2.25, 2.25. If there were a C, D, E, F, they would all be listed under there as well. And that's how the specifier will complete. Let me just take a step back just to run through a few more of these screens. Okay, so I think that basically just shows what I've described. So if, for example, here we're completing drainage, pipes and chambers, sorry, and we had a schedule for the West Carriageway and a schedule for the East Carriageway. I appreciate that this is massively oversimplified. What we can do is by using this button up here, we can click it and create this for the West Carriageway, so it pulls in all the information from that screen that I just showed you with regards to the SIs and creates it for the West Carriageway. By clicking this button, we can then create the same information for the East Carriageway and go through and add the data there. For each of so when you've completed the schedule SIs, such that, this would be add unique reference, layout ref, pipe detail A, pipe detail B, you can then create as many rows as you like and they can complete, the specifier can complete the data as it's sort of set out in the specifier, in the SI instructions as authored in CARS. So we can add all of that data there. Similarly, if something is imported from another piece of software, such that you create a table or schedule from micro drainage, or I think there's a flow software as well, or Civils 3D, we can import the table as a CSV. So the minimum viable product will be that as long as you get these titles the right way round, all these columns the right way round in the CSV, you'll be able to import the data directly into it. Once we've got that working, the minimum viable product plus, as we would call it, will be such that it doesn't matter what order you have the CSV in, as long as the column headers have the same name, it will just automatically pull the data in. Some of the feedback from the consultation we undertook said that, well, some of these schedules are absolutely massive. We don't want to put them in here. We want to keep them on a separate sheet, which we've taken on board. So what we're looking at potentially, and we haven't agreed this with the head of standards yet, because it sort of goes against the everything is uniform and standardized approach, is that you may be able to just click an option here to say that the information is elsewhere. That isn't confirmed. We don't know if that's going to happen. It's there to be discussed, but we've taken that feedback on board from the consultation. So it's something that may happen, but it may not, because it does rule out the sort of standardization approach. But we appreciate that this has actually got to be usable by the industry. So there's a healthy challenge there, but which we're going to go through. If I just scroll back up. So as I said before, with regards to updating, so you will, let me just make sure. Yeah, so this date here will be the date that you put in for the version of the SHW that you actually put in the front sheet that I showed. If you're then to use this screen and select a different date, so say, for example, as you can see there, this was as of the 31st of the 5th. Now we're looking, the SHW was updated on the 28th of the 6th. You can select that date, and this will show you where all of those changes have been made from the SHW with regards to new clause content. It will show you the previous clause content, and when you click on 22 in more detail, it will show you the previous clause content against the new clause content, and you will then be able to click that button and apply the updated SHW specification. So let me just double check that works. Yes, it does. Oh, it didn't take me where I thought it was going to go. Bear with me a second. Let me just find that screen. Here we go. So yeah, this shows how that update will look. So if you've clicked on that button, it will show that 2.4.1a was the old clause. So the clause as of the 31st of May, and this is the new clause. So you say, well, what's the difference? Well, it might be that 10 is no longer applicable and the minimum is 15, 20 and 30. So we looked at the option of updating this automatically, but we thought that isn't right. We shouldn't be changing people's documents without them approving the changing of them. So although it shows side by side there, they will just have to be updated, and then this can just be deleted like that. Something that came back from the feedback is whether or not, for example, road pavements would like to be updated, but everything else stays the same. One of the big concerns about that is that then you don't have a actual stable version of the SHW that you're working from. You're sort of working from, well, these are all 31st of the 5th, but this is 28th of the 6th. So what we took on board is that actually, if road pavements would like to just do that, so the specifier for the road pavements actually wants to update, but everyone else wants to stay the same, there might be a button here to say update but submit departure, and then you would submit a departure from this version of the SHW to allow those new clauses to be included, such that we have a fixed version of the SHW that the project's working to, but road pavements have actually accepted this new one. Again, that was only discussed at the consultation. It's not definitely going to happen. We're looking through it, looking through the contractual reasons. We need to discuss with Kate and Simon what they think about it, because it just might not be appropriate from a contractual point of view, but we have taken the feedback on board. Let me just see if there's any other screens that would really, this is just kind of more audit trail stuff, such that you can see any discussions that you've raised or any discussions on a specification that you're working on, such that you can monitor them to close out those discussions. If reviewers have said, look, this should really be 50 instead of 40, you can just directly identify where that is and work through them such that you can close any comments out. Yeah, so that one's the discussions that you've raised. This one is discussions on the specifications that you're authoring. Let me have a look. I think we've discussed this. Discussed that. This is just more in depth my discussions, just showing you what it could potentially look like. This would, if you have a departure against this clause and you've completely departed against it, it will show like this in this view, such that you're not substituting, you've cancelled it completely, and it will just show like this, such that it's very obvious when the specifier is putting the specification together that for whatever element they add within this vortex separators, they really shouldn't be adding anything, because it's all been completely deleted in terms of cancellation. I think the only other thing, yeah, so this is the departure screen. So where you've got departures that would be against the specification, for obviously you can't comply potentially with the SHW, or there's things which are not covered by the SHW that you'd like to add, they'll show up in this sort of summary screen. You can then add the justification for the departure, and you can then submit the departure. You can create and submit the departure application from in here. We are looking as well as tracking the departures from within here. We're not sure on that. It depends really what the people that own DAS, which also sit within TSG, think and how happy they are, but we've got consultation with them shortly about this, so we'll have a way forward on that. It's just at the moment this is what we're thinking, but we want them to be happy as well. Okay, specification type versions. Again, this is allowing you to track the versions of the specifications that have been issued. More work to be done around this, especially being able to identify the tender issue and the contract issue, making sure that they are set in stone as a version, and then any changes to that are identified with the correct wording as well. But this is just to show what it could look like and our thought process at the moment, but a lot more work to be done around this. Sorry. Background commentary. So this won't be compulsory on any specification. It's there for the user, basically. So if you had, I don't know, for whatever reason, you would normally say this should be 20, but it's actually 10. You could add a background commentary in there to say agreed with project sponsor at National Highways, 10 is the only feasible option for this, C, and you could add something in there. You won't be able to attach things, but you could say C email dated, whatever it is, such that you've got a reference in there. And it's just really for you to add anything, any audit trail that the supply chain wants to capture in there can be captured. We've got ongoing discussions at the moment, because obviously as private companies, you're not subjected to FOI requests, but obviously National Highways are subject to FOI requests. So when we consulted with consultants, they weren't concerned about this because it would be anonymized. There would be no names in there. So they weren't too concerned about it, but we just need to, there's a bit more thinking to be done around this to make sure that we need to speak to legal basically about it to make sure they're happy as well, which we haven't done yet because this is just the lines in the sand to sort of show what we're thinking. And also as well, there's commentary, and this is purely for you guys to use to discuss what's going on. It might be that reviewer A or user A has said this should be smaller, 10's too much, it needs to be 5. You can come back saying change to 5. It's not for us in National Highways at all. It's for you guys to use it to capture your thoughts and review the specification on what should be happening. When this is issued to the contractor, none of these comments or discussions or the background comments are included. It is just the clauses, the specified instructions that have been completed that will be included. And I probably should say, when we print it out, we think it will be a paper version will obviously be available, but that paper version will be in topic specific chunks. So you'll get all of drainage, all of earthworks, all of subject 3, all of subject 4. For the digital version as well, which will be available, it'll be a zip file, but those zip files will be zipped up in drainage, subject 2, subject 3, subject 4. We looked at providing it as one single file, but it's just way too massive. And also as well, we think this would probably be more helpful to the contractor providing it in these chunks, such that the earthworks contractor can just be given subject 2. The drainage contractor can be given subject 3 if they're the same drainage. Sorry, if they're the same person, then give them drainage and subject 3, but they may not necessarily want subject 4, which is the pavement specification. So that was our thinking with regards to that. But happy to take feedback if you think if that's not quite right. And then versioning, you've got versioning. I won't go through this because I think it's pretty self-explanatory, and I've sort of covered it elsewhere. I think that's the same thing, just a different view. That just tells you your subjects. That's another view, I think, that we've just popped on the end. And this is so because we're filling this in this way, everything is 100% indexed, such that you can see where all of the clauses are, all the SIs that have been completed for each of the WSRs, each of the subjects, and that at the moment we're discussing whether or that needs to replace the schedule of pages and also Appendix 03. It's there if we need it. If we don't think it needs including, then it's not there, but we've captured the data. That's the main thing, and we can manipulate it or transform it into what we need. That's it really. Are there any questions around that? Or I know that a couple others have joined the call. Are there any questions in general?
Gareth, I'll kick off. There is a question just on the fact that we're only going to give it blocks, for example, the 600. 600 relates to 3000, so if it's not clear in 600 the relationship to 3000, how are they going to pick that up?
Sorry, Henry, how do you mean? So if for example, let's go back to, sorry, let me just find the right view. If sorry, let me a second, I'm just trying to find the right view to just to make sure we've got something in front of us. So if, for example, this here referred to 3000, but it's actually sat in 5000, is that what you mean?
Yeah, if there is a reference, what I'm trying to say is sometimes, for example, with earthworks or 600 is I believe we've got topsoil, which flips between 3000 and 600. And unless there is a reference in 600 and in 3000, and if you're only going to give a block of 600, for argument's sake, the contractor probably won't see that reference to or get that link to 3000 unless it's referenced in 600.
Yeah, so there's two things there. What we're going to do is, obviously there's quite a few of these WSR. Let me just pull up what I mean, just to make sure. Oh no, sorry, that's the wrong thing. Just to make sure that I'm just being abundantly clear. Let's go in here. Hopefully there's some. It's probably not now. I'll tell you what. Let's go. Let's have a look. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, exactly. So for example, say that this at the moment. So that sort of text there will be replaced with text which looks like that. But if, for example, that there refers to 500 that I just showed, and that there refers to 600, the link there will be, the link will be in the specification. So when reading the spec documents, they know that they've got to look, the SHW, sorry, they've got to look in 500 for that piece of information, and they've got to look for 600 in that for that piece of information. When the specifier is compiling the specification, what will happen is at this stage, oh sorry, I can show you there actually, sorry. At this stage, there will be, no, it doesn't show it, sorry. So when they start clicking on these, there'll be the option to select all of them such that you pull them all in, or select none and you just add as and when you need, because we identify that people work in different ways. Some people might want to have them all there and then click them off and say, no, I don't need that, no, I don't need that. Some people might want to have none of them there and click them on. What will happen, so say for example drainage, actually within this area of the SHW, they refer to 600, as I've said there. When you click that button, it will say there are related WSRs to this block. Do you want to bring them in? So for example, if this had a related block to pavements, it would come up and say, this is related to, there's some reference here related to pavements. Do you want to bring it in? Yes or no? You click yes, and it will add it for you such that it's there. It's then the specifier's responsibility to complete that. It won't auto complete it. There are links between schedules that we're looking at for some disciplines which will be auto completed, but they've made themselves aware to us, and we don't have that functionality at the moment, but we're working on it. So then it will be the specifier's responsibility to complete that. As those chunks come out, it's then the responsibility of the principal contractor, if they've got subbies, to give the right chunks to the right people, or they can put them all together into one document. The paper version will have to be able to be provided into sort of chapters within one section, as it is now, really. Does that answer the question?
I think it does, but now I'm going to go back to the more fundamental one. You lost me a long time ago when you first started. When is this tool? I guess what I'm trying to understand is when this tool is actually used. Do we as authors have to input into this tool, or is it purely the specifier that is filling out for a particular project?
So it will be purely the specifier that will be putting in. There will be some work such that each authoring team will probably want to set themselves up as a user on this and just look at this view to make sure that what they've authored here is what they is what they expected to happen here, and just make sure they've got that right. And then by changing this in cars, in cars it will change in here and then change in there. So yeah, that's as far as it goes. Just a check to make sure people are happy themselves that what they've authored in terms of SIs actually are what they think they would be in the specifier tool.
And you will have a record of each project that does this. Is that?
Yeah.
Did I understand that correct? That's going to be massive.
Yeah, that's another challenge at the moment, Henry, that you're rightfully right to bring up, in that this is potentially bigger than any other user base that we have at the moment, in terms of the whole of the supply chain on national highways projects at the moment. Will be able to use this. So yeah, we are looking at that. It was identified early, and we're working through that as well. So yeah, it is a bigger tool than anything we've previously done potentially.
Well, you might have answered this, and I might have missed it, but if that is the case, so I'm going to specify a particular project, but it might be similar to somebody else that specified on another project. Is there any way I can get that information? So, or is each project has to do their own thing, and there is no, what's the word I'm looking for, interchange between projects or whatever? I don't know.
There's a couple things there which is probably worth going over. the first thing is if someone is listed in here and then listed on another project, they'll be able to see both. So there's no copy and paste though, because we've seen that as a risk before in terms of quality issues. So there's no copy and paste, but they will. So if, you know, say Dave Smith, no, that's not a good idea. Say the approver B says to Dave Smith's colleague, oh, I can only think of Stephen Smith, sorry. So say Stephen Bob's got to prepare a presentation, a specification, and the approver says, well, it's very similar to Dave Smith. They could add Stephen Bob in here, and they could look at it and use it as a guide, but they will not be able to directly copy because we've seen massive quality issues around that. So they'll be able to use it as a guide, but not copy. But it really is only completing drop downs. We've tried to limit the SIs in terms of free text, so hopefully there won't be chunks of free text too much in the specification. There will need to be some, that's inevitable, and they will be directly copyable. So if you've got chunks of free text, you will be able to copy them. In terms of copying the whole specification, that's not something we've looked at in terms of, but we have looked at cloning it. So we looked at the situation where a design organization completes the specification, and then it's sort of a feasibility. In terms of feasibility, they complete the specification. That specification is then handed over into design and build scenario. And I don't think that it's right that in terms of the design and build scenario, or someone else taking that specification on, actually, it doesn't have to be design and build, that we simply delete these people out and add in the new people that are taking over. We need a permanent record of what Dave Smith, user A and user B have done. So in terms of handover, this would be captured, as a carbon copy, basically, and just kept and left for our audit purposes. We would then clone this specification and provide it to the organization taking over and allow them to do their due diligence on it. I think we identified that people that have produced stuff need to be able to get back to that stuff, and it shouldn't then just be edited by others and others' organization. So in terms of that, there will be a carbon copy created, and then that carbon copy cloned such that the other organization can take it on. Whether or not we allow that to happen just in general, I'm not sure, because it could create quality issues, but we'll wait and see. If that's something that needs to happen, we can more than easily add that functionality.
That raised a lot of questions, but the only other one that I'll ask right now. So the specification tool, is this going to be prepared? Do we have to prepare it? Or I think you answered it, it's the specifier that has to do it.
Yeah. So the specifier tool will just basically, it just transforms the information that's been authored in CARS. So yeah, and it's like I said, the only thing that, if I was authoring a document in CARS, the only thing I would do is I would ask to set myself up as a user, and just check this view to make sure these statements are coming in here as I thought they would be. That's all I would do. I would not do anything else. Oh, there's no requirement for them to do anything else.
When you say you, do you mean you as an author or you as a specifier?
Yeah, me as an author. Okay. Yeah, me as an author. Sorry. Yeah, me as an author. Yeah, just from a quality assurance point of view, that what I've authored here in CARS actually comes out as I expected to out there. Yeah, that's all I would do, and then there's nothing else for them to do, really.
Thanks. I'll let others.
No worries. If everyone's happy to overrun, I'm happy to overrun, or just drop off as necessary. Philip, yeah, go ahead.
I'll stay behind because of a few questions. Just to confirm understanding, this specifier tool is for the design organization to prepare to use to create the specifications.
Yeah, that's right.
And SES role is just purely to review the document when it's ready.
Yeah. Well, yes. Not in terms of this task. No, there'll be nothing. There's
Oh,
nothing that you have to actually review as part of this task. The only thing, like I said, that I would review is that what I've authored in here as a document author actually transfers into here as I expected to. That's the only thing I would review.
Oh yeah. What? Yeah, I rephrase my question. I mean, when the product is ready in the future, whoever created the specification, it will be, yeah, SES. Basically, SES name that doesn't appear on this document, and neither as a checker approval. We just want to review it as part of the technical assurance process.
Yeah, and we haven't really got that far in our thought process, but I don't think that should be done. That stage of the project shouldn't be done within side the specifier tool, because again, the specifier tool isn't replacing quality assurance or quality control measures. So a submission should be made to you as SES for the specification. I would be a bit uncomfortable if we were if we were reviewing it from within the specifier tool.
Yeah, agree. And just going back to the content page, I usually do expect specification to come along with construction drawings. Is there any link between this new format specification with the construction drawings?
Yeah, sure. That really entirely depends on how your authors have set up calling those drawings into the specification. So, for example, it might be that the layout ref actually refers to drawings. So you would put within here your drawing numbers. It may be that your drawing references are actually just a list, which so how the SIs are authored within cars depends on how you include the drawing references within here. I mean, if it's something where there's lots of elements, a schedule is probably best. If it's something where you only have one or two drawings, but there's multiple instances of them throughout the site, such as there could be something on the east carriageway, west carriageway. This could equally be south abutment, north abutment, bridge deck, whatever you want it to be. It might be worth just including them as a single line of text. That's entirely up to you guys. Something else that we've been speaking to drainage about is how they want that information to be recorded on their database. So, do they actually want pipe schedules in this format? Is that what they work with? Need to think about that when you're authoring the document. But yeah, it's entirely up to the author, basically.
Okay. I suppose this specifier tool currently is developed by TSG.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was wondering how the finished product, the finished specification would looks like. Now from this example you show on the screen, I can see how it looks like. But do you actually have a set of example which I can actually see?
No, we don't have that yet. Sorry, Philip. You mean like how it will look, how the package of information will be given to the contractor?
Just a finished product of the specifications, because currently are doing rewriting on the MCHW. We put those specifier instructions, but what I couldn't picture in my mind is the finished product at the end after the compiler has compiled everything. What I see in this on my screen now at the moment is how it meant to look like, but I'm just hoping that there is actually another PDF or something that you can share with me, so that I can then share it with the supply chain.
Yeah, I don't think we've got it, if I'm honest, but I have just taken a note to develop that information, because it probably wouldn't, it's not a huge amount of effort to do that. No, we don't have it, Philip, unfortunately. Let me a sec. What I can do is we can develop something, and I think that's a valid point, and we can put something on the help pages to show that. So let me just see if we've got it here. It's not
Yeah,
loading. So rubbish.
To me, example is always good because one can picture once they can picture
Yeah,
how
sure.
the finished product would look, then they can write the write the write the specifications.
Yeah, that's totally fine,
accordingly.
Philip. I've taken that away as a comment. And what we'll do is I'm trying to get some stuff on the help pages about this anyway. So what I'll do is add something to that. I'll just quickly check to make sure we haven't got it here, but I don't think we have. That's fine.
Okay.
I've just noticed Tony's got his hand up. Philip, did you have any other questions?
I got question to the Kate and Simon. I suppose I can ask that later on after Tony then.
Yeah, that's okay if that's all right. Yeah, sure, go Tony.
Yeah, it's on the schedules. We're sort
Yeah.
of relying quite heavily on schedules,
Sure.
and tables. How much control is there over the specifier formatting those tables?
Well, there's complete control dependent on what you put in the SIs. So,
Just by way of example, we have a schedule which is 13 columns long.
Yeah.
Wide, sorry. And at the moment, cars only accepts 10 columns. Would you be able to do 13 columns in Specifier Tool?
Yeah, you should be able to do it. It depends. Is it actually readable then though?
Well, it depends on the formatting, which is the size of text and the size of the columns. Because at the moment, the columns auto resize in cars.
Yeah, but what I mean is, the information that is going in there, is it just a drop down selecting from A, B, C, or is there quite lengthy information to be put in
There'll
there?
be different bits of information. So some of it will be drop down short information, some of it will be a bit more wordy.
So once the table's built, have a look at it. If it's not legible, so the specifier tool will have the same publish function as cars at the moment. If it's not legible when it's rotated, then email me to let me know, because that was something that when I said
But how do we do that without the tool working?
because it will function the same as cars. So build the table in cars.
But the cars only goes up to 10 columns.
So yeah, so it won't be possible then. So if
so
email me.
It won't be possible to have more than 10 columns in the Specifier Tool table.
Not at the moment. Well, I can't imagine that the 10 columns are readable though. Are they in cars if you put the information in them?
I haven't tried. I did go to 10 columns, but the trouble is you can't see what it looks like eventually when it's printed out.
It's okay. I'll take a note of it. As I discussed before, it might be that we need to say if that information is fixed every single time, then we'll have to make a change to the specifier tool such that it accepts 13 columns, because at the moment the print functionality is exactly the same as cars, so it won't work. But if so those 13 columns will be needed every single time. There's not a chance that they won't be included at all ever.
I assume they will be, yes.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
What was the subject matter of those 13 columns?
I can't remember which clause we're on, but I'd have to look back through the.
So what document is that, Tony?
600 series.
Okay, could you just send me what clause it is so that I can just go in and have a look at the SIs, and then we'll just flag that there's a schedule.
If you bear with me.
13 columns. Where would that information usually come from? Would it just be? It's not coming from a piece of software.
No.
Okay, that's fine.
But it could. I mean, in theory, there's no reason why the information couldn't.
I think you also need to always bear in mind the fact this has got to be used on site. Somebody's got to be able to interpret the schedule standing
Yeah, but I mean,
you know,
what we do
in
at
a
the
windy
moment,
place. So it's got to be readable, either on a small electronic device or on paper.
Yeah. How would you usually provide that, Tony? Would it be on an A1 sheet?
No, it'd be on an A4 sheet, but portrait. Sorry, landscape.
Well, it should work then. Yeah, that should work. If it's usually on an A4 sheet but landscape, then yeah, it should work. That should work. Yeah.
So, okay, well, I need to have a look and try to print out what's on cars at the moment and see. But the trouble is, at the moment, you've got no control over the column width.
Yeah.
Or font size. So how much control will the specifier have?
None. It'll all be. There's no sort of word functionality with regards to resizing the font or spacing or anything like that. Yeah, there'll be nothing with regards to that. But if it does work usually on an A4 sheet, then I'd be pretty confident that that cars will be able to do it. But I'll ask the developers anyway, because the way the specifier tool handles schedules probably is the same as cars, such that it will only go up to 10.
Right.
But that's not to say that we can't accept 13. I'll ask them. And we probably need to have some verification around that as well, if it can't handle it. It won't be a problem. I imagine it will just be a case of changing the number 10 to 13 in a piece of code. But
it's our clause 7.2.
Okay.
There may be, it may actually show only 12 on there, but there's a column missing at the moment, which is the drawing.
Yeah, that's no problem. The underlying theory is the same, in that we could have people creating, you know, the number of SIs isn't limited, but if the print, sort of the publication of those tables is limited to 10 because it's based on the same coding as cars, then there'll be a problem. Yeah, that's no worries. I'll take that away and see what we find out. That's fine.
Can columns also wrap text?
Yeah, I think they do automatically, don't they? In terms of, you mean create, if you go to get to the end, you drop down.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that only, I'm not sure. Let me have a look a minute.
I think as you're developing that table, it'd be really useful to be involved in the things you're doing, so we can just have a comment on the way you're implementing it, because it makes, as sort of Philip sort of alluded to, we can write clauses at the moment and go to TSC, whatever, but until you actually see the finished product, it's really difficult to understand whether those clauses you've written will actually persist, because you may have to rewrite them depending on the capability and output.
We do appreciate that. That's one of the reasons why the governance process is now includes an on hold stage after documents have been developed, so that we at that stage we're envisaging a lot of pulling together work needed. And part of the reason for that was because we knew that authors hadn't had sight of the specifier tool prior to writing the documents.
Yeah, Tony, if you add a table,
yeah,
so that table there has now got 13 columns in it.
Has it?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So if you add a table, of 10, and then just manually add the rest of the columns, it does add them.
Oh, I tried that. It could really. Oh, well. Oh, yeah.
So,
and so what does that look like when it's printed out in landscape? So if you,
I would just start putting in the stuff that you need to put in.
Yeah.
And then it will just look as it does without being rude. But yeah, without putting some actual meaningful stuff in here, it's hard to tell. But put some meaningful stuff in. Send me a screenshot if you want, and we can take it from there. If it is becoming squash, then I'll speak to the developers. But yeah, have a look, mock something up, and then and we'll take it from there.
Okay. Just one question on the use of this then. In terms of, you talked about devolved administrations. What about local authorities?
Similar discussions ongoing. Unfortunately, the way it works at the moment is that national highways, regardless of what we say, isn't responsible for the local authorities. Saying that, we are looking at a paper-based version as well, such that the local authorities can use that. It's part of the wider discussion that, so there will be a paper-based version anyway, so it doesn't matter if you're a local authority or devolved administration, you will be able to, when I say paper-based, I don't mean it's actually on paper, I mean that you will be able to potentially export the outputs of this to PDF potentially, but that PDF will be be able to be manipulated easily into Word, you know, such that it's a bit trickier than just going straight to Word. Don't really want that, because what we don't want is people on national highways projects exporting this to Word and then just completing it in Word. So it'll probably be
reformatting the tables.
yeah. But it might be that we have to do that. But yeah, so there'll be a version that can be probably exported to PDF and then easily converted to Word, and then they can use the Word version. Obviously, you're going to lose functionality within Word potentially of these drop downs and stuff, so they will just be
done.
Complete. Yes, basically. So they'll be able to use that. We are, depending on how we go with the devolved administrations and what their appetite is, there may be local authorities where we could just hand over all of the code and they can just host it on their own website. The reason why we can't at the moment, that we don't think at the moment we can just allow them simply to sign up with it being based on our Microsoft Azure platform, is because we can't hold their data. We're not legally allowed to hold their data. But in saying that, we are looking also, and this is sort of very, very early stages, and I'm not sure we're going to be able to do it. We are looking at a neutral platform to host it, and then really those problems sort of go away, because they just sign a memorandum of understanding that their data is going to be held on this third-party platform. We're not going to look at it. They can access it whenever they want and retrieve it whenever they want, but and then they can use the tool. So we have options there, but it's really about data that's the problem.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
But there will be a version that anyone can use anywhere. Like I said, it will be paper-based, but when I say that, I mean that it won't have all the metadata and the logic sat behind it. It will just simply be in Word, something like that.
Thanks.
Oh, someone's put something in the chat. It's okay, someone just had to go. If there's no more questions, sorry that we overran. I will look into getting some mock-ups of the finished product, Philip, and also Tony, if once you've completed that table with 13 columns, if it's not looking like how you want it to look, if you send it to me, I'll speak to the developers and see what we can do around that.
Right. Brilliant.
Okay, cool.
I see I got, if I can keep Kate and Simon.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm going to drop off if that's okay. And I'll speak to you tomorrow or next week. So have a great day. I'll speak to you later.